Alright, we're going to continue our Halloween reaction. And I am still working on a commission, so luckily since it's a scarf, I'll be able to make more eye contact with y'all. So let's watch this Sterling Gardner Museum heist, and let's put this in theater mode.
This week on Buzzfeed Unsolved, we investigate the Gardner Museum art heist, the biggest museum art heist in the world. It's also considered America's biggest property crime ever.
I love it.
What do you love about it?
I love heists. This is fun.
Yeah, heists are fun. For the most part, they're, I guess, victimless.
You're stealing from largely what? The rich?
I suppose, yeah. I
People
guess.
who own a lot of marble and oil paintings. Yeah, whatever. Steal from them. I don't care.
And there is like a weird impulse to root for the robbers, and I don't know why that is.
It's fun.
Well, we'll see who you're rooting for in a second. Let's get into it.
Oh shit.
Built in 1901, the Gardner Museum houses over 15,000 pieces of art collected by the late Isabella Stewart Gardner. And on
so
March
that's who it was
18,
named after.
1990, the museum fell victim to a historic heist. Though only 13 pieces of art were stolen, the combined value is worth over $500 million.
Damn.
Ironically, at the time of the robbery, the museum was in the midst of updating their outdated security.
I can't imagine if I was upgrading my home security, and in the couple days that I was doing it, my house got robbed.
That happens.
Sometimes you lose $500 million.
Yeah.
I would lose $50 in cash, an Xbox One.
I have a precious a butterfly encased in glass.
You have a butterfly encased? Are you like, that's weird, right? That's
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going
like
to head
not
down
exactly
that
the
road
most
of having a
normal
room that's
thing.
full of bugs and butterflies, and I want it to look like a
serial killer's den? Is that what?
yes,
because
but
it
sort of
descri-
like a well-traveled serial killer.
On the night of the heist, two inexperienced guardsmen were on duty. One security guard, named Richard E. Abbott, was a music school dropout and part of a rock band. He was a rock performer by day and a security guard at the museum by night. By his own admission, he would sometimes show up for work, drunk or stoned after a performance. Quote, "I'd be just
Seriously?
getting off of the stage somewhere and just wanted to slow down before I went over to the most boring job in the world," end quote.
I really respect this guy.
I mean,
He is a knucklehead, but he's an honest knucklehead.
he's not trying to say like, I tried my best. This was my passion. This job, I took it very seriously. He's very forthcoming with, yeah, I didn't really like this job.
Because how often does a heist happen? It truly must be the most boring job in the world.
Though,
Yeah.
Abbott insists he was sober the night of the robbery. Around 12:54 a.m., a half hour before the thieves had successfully entered the building, a fire alarm went off on the third floor of the museum. When it was investigated, there was no fire. Whether this was part of the thieves' scheme is unknown. At 1:24 a.m., two men dressed as policemen buzzed into the security desk where Abbott was stationed. The men stated that they were responding to a disturbance call and demanded entry. There were St. Patrick's Day parties happening in the neighborhood, so a disturbance call made sense to the security guard Abbott. Also, Abbott added that he wanted to avoid getting arrested because he had tickets to a Grateful Dead concert later that day.
This guy has all the correct motivation. I love that he says he's high all the time except for this one day. He's like, yeah, I'm always stoned. I wasn't that day. And that his priorities, that he's got a fucking Dead show to go to.
And here's the thing, if he was this forthcoming with police officers who may charge him for criminal offenses, I have to imagine he was this forthcoming in the job interview.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's almost on the museum themselves for hiring this man.
Abbott buzzed the two policemen through the employee entrance, violating museum protocol.
Dude.
Then, one of the men said to Abbott, quote, "You look familiar. I think we have a default warrant out on you. Come out here and show us some identification." Abbott was tricked to leave his control desk, which has the only button that would immediately alert the
Dude.
police. He was then instructed to face the wall and stand spread eagle. Abbott recalls that as he was being handcuffed, he found it odd that he was
Side note, I have no fucking idea what spread eagle is actually supposed to mean. Like, spread eagle is like, that's a weird term, right? I can't be the only one thinking that. Or maybe I'm that kind of level of asexuality.
not frisked beforehand, and it dawned on him that this could be a robbery.
You
I don't know
think?
if these two robbers were as bright as they seem. But it is interesting to point out that they knew that the only button to alert the police was at that desk, so they knew they had to get him away from it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's ticking all the boxes so far because not only have they clearly done their research, or at least happened upon a very
They may have cased the joint.
yeah.
Yeah.
They got costumes. I'm picturing just the whole crew, like a guy up on a telephone pole.
Oh yeah.
There's
yeah.
always the guy on the telephone pole.
Like they have a lookout and all that stuff.
Is there a guy on a telephone
Well,
pole?
we'll get into how this
God,
case carries.
there better be a guy on a telephone pole.
We'll see.
At this time, the second guard arrived and was also arrested. The second guard asked why he was being arrested, and the men replied, "You're not being arrested. This is a robbery. Don't give us any problems, and you won't get hurt." The guard responded, quote, "Don't worry, they don't pay me enough to get hurt."
I'm not taking a bullet for some rich person because they wanted to jaunt around the world and have their art shown.
I'm just realizing now how fun it would be to bond with the robbers. I'm kicking back with these guys.
The heads, hands, and feet of the guards were tied with duct tape. Motion detectors in the museum show that the robbers then went to the second floor and split up, removing various pieces of art from the walls. During the heist, an alarm went off. It was meant to alert guards that someone had gotten too close to the artwork. The robbers found the alarm and smashed it.
Okay, so this is why the security in the building was flawed. The alarm just goes to the guards, and the only way the police are alerted is because
As if the guards press a button.
press the self-destruct button.
So maybe have more than 2 guards.
They had a security advisor come in and be like, you got to change everything. You got to have a control room where the guards are sitting in that have access to all this stuff. And they're like, I guess they ignored it for a while.
Yeah.
And when they finally decided to
Oh,
do
what are
so-
you, some kind of security expert? Yes, I am.
At 2:28 a.m., the robbers returned to the security counter. They made a second check on the guards in the basement. They then removed tapes that captured their movement outside the side door and in other places in the museum. After 13 minutes, they readied for their leave, taking the art to their vehicle in 2 separate trips. There were witnesses who recalled seeing the thieves near the museum, sitting in a red hatchback.
A hatchback.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? Not
This
every...
all started out with the costumes, and I thought we were going to tick all the heist boxes, you know, like a big rendezvous, maybe a helicopter, some kind of a point where they rip their mustaches off.
Getting away with $500 million is disappointing to you.
It's still very impressive.
You just heard it here first. You get away with $500 million, that's cool, but if you don't do it with some pizzazz, Shane is disappointed.
How hard is it to rip off a mustache?
Oh
I
my-
mean, they even had a moment, a really badass moment, where he said, "We're not arresting you. We're robbing you."
Of the 13 items taken, noteworthy pieces included 3 Rembrandts and, bizarrely, a gilded filial eagle from a Napoleonic banner outside the tapestry room.
That's really
They tried
specific.
taking a 4th Rembrandt, but it was apparently too hard to remove. Skipping to about 4 hours later, sometime between 6:45 and 8:16 a.m., the 2 morning shift guards showed up to work, unable to enter the museum, prompting the deputy security director to call the police. At 8:30 a.m., the police showed up and discovered the 2 night security guards handcuffed in the basement. Despite wearing gloves, which prevented leaving fingerprints, the thieves didn't cover their faces, which let the guards get a good look at them. However, the security guard Abbott could not recall what the men looked like when asked by the Boston police. Abbott recalls that the police sketch, quote, was awful, end quote. Though, in 2005, Abbott mentioned, quote, one of them looked like Colonel Klink on Hogan's Heroes. That's all I can remember, end quote.
Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
This guy's the best.
He seems like the most over-the-top cinematic security guard
Yeah.
in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Like,
does.
I couldn't write this man.
No, he's a cartoon.
Some wonder why the thieves left behind pieces that were clearly worth more, like a Michelangelo and a Titian. And why did they spend so much time trying to take such an obscure object as the filial eagle?
I always wonder, what do you
Maybe they were hired to do so. Like, they were hired to steal, like, these certain objects or paintings.
do with it?
The art
Yeah.
itself? Yeah, because it is hard to
You sell them
sell
in
it.
the black. You can't just pop on eBay. Be like, I got a few Rembrandts lying around.
Buy it now at 1 million. Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You gotta, what do you sell it to other criminals? Did
Probably.
Saddam Hussein buy stolen art back in the day?
I don't know. Well, my
Does
knowledge
Kim
of...
Jong-un do it these days?
I have no idea, man. My knowledge of Amazon and eBay is quite extensive, but when it comes to the black market, I'm not a lot there. I don't really know how it works.
Probably a
Maybe
drug
they
lord
do have a
wanted
buy it now
something.
auction.
Probably
Instead of
something pretty.
museum. Oh, outbid it again. Damn it, Kim.
One interesting development occurred in April of 1994 when the museum received an anonymous letter claiming to know the location of the art. The author seemed to have a great knowledge of the pieces stolen and the art world in general. The anonymous tipper stated that the pieces were safe in a controlled environment, but the museum had to act quickly because a buyer in another country who was unaware that the pieces were stolen could purchase them and claim legal ownership. The writer
Dude.
asked for $2.6 million for facilitating the return of the artwork. The museum agreed. The museum then received a second letter. The author was pleased they were interested in negotiating, but was discouraged by the local law, state, and federal authorities intervening. The
No.
writer openly wondered if they were trying to arrest the middleman on top of recovering the art. They wrote in all caps, quote, "You cannot have both," end quote. The tipper also added that even if they see no way of following through with the negotiations, they would give some clues to the whereabouts of the art. They've never heard from the author since.
I think they probably knew some details that made the museum think, okay, this is legit. So, who knows? Maybe they got cold feet.
It's nerve-wracking being the middleman there. It seems like a rendezvous you would have to go to where you're looking over your shoulder the whole time, looking
Yeah.
out the windows.
You gotta expect that they're gonna have that, though. You're not handing over random shit. You're handing over $500 million worth of goods.
It's a fair amount.
So you're gonna expect a couple badges there.
That being said, let's get into the theories. The first theory is that a thief named Brian McDevitt was responsible for the crime. McDevitt had committed a similar art robbery in the 80s, where he hijacked a FedEx truck and dosed the driver with ether. Wearing the uniform and carrying duct tape, McDevitt planned to bind museum employees at the Hyde Collection in Glens Falls, New York, and cut paintings from their frames.
No, don't cut 'em.
Hilariously, McDevitt and his accomplices got stuck in traffic
Yeah.
and arrived after the museum closed, thus foiling their plans. McDevitt served a few months in jail for attempted robbery. McDevitt also lived about a 10-minute drive away from the Gardner Museum at the time of the heist. He was questioned by the FBI in 1992, and later in front of a grand jury. His lawyer told the Globe that his client knew nothing about the crime.
And, you know, this was no small change robbery attempt. He did use a costume.
He did use a costume. He had.
So he does have a flair for the theatrics.
Yeah, he has a proclivity for costumes.
I like that.
So maybe.
Any talk of mustaches in that one?
I didn't look into that.
No, maybe do a little more research next
Okay,
time
well.
on the mustache front.
Okay, I'll make sure. I'll write that down here. Let me get that pen. Actually, I don't care.
The second theory is a classic, that the heist was an inside job. This would explain how the thieves knew where the only alarm button was located, and also their knowledge that the artwork did not have anti-theft devices. The FBI claim that security guard Richard E. Abbott has not been ruled out as a suspect. The suspicion goes beyond Abbott being poor at his job. As mentioned before, Abbott notably could not recall the faces of the robbers shortly after the heist.
I don't know how I would describe
Or that could be like a side effect of drug use.
your face to someone. I'd just say,
Yeah.
you had a nose, sort of looks like a cartoon gopher.
Yeah, if I had to describe yours, I would say, first off, do you have some paper that could fold out? Because you're going to need a lot of real estate to cover this guy's head.
Yeah.
It's huge. Probably the size of most barn doors.
Also, despite the thieves' failure to destroy motion sensor equipment, the motion sensors, oddly, didn't record the thieves on the first floor where a piece was stolen. But that same equipment picked up Abbott's round in that room before the thieves arrived. Abbott also broke security protocol by granting the disguised policeman entry. Museum policy prohibits letting unauthorized personnel, even police, from entering the museum. Abbott states he was unaware of this policy. Yet,
Yeah, 'cause
this
he was-
wasn't the first
he did
time Abbott had
drugs.
broken protocol. At one of the museum's New Year's Eve parties, Abbott snuck in some friends, which, to be fair, seems fairly innocuous. But
Yeah.
that doesn't apply to his third break of protocol. A video released 2 years ago shows Abbott letting in an unauthorized visitor the night before the heist.
Dude.
Law enforcement officials believe this person may have been scanning the area for a dry run. Abbott says he does not remember this visitor.
Was that one of the
despite being
days he
caught
was
on
high?
tape. Nonetheless, in 2015, Abbott stated in an interview that he's still angry about that night.
Yeah, it's fishy. That's something you would remember. Even if you're sort of intoxicated or out of your mind, I imagine he wasn't on the job and so high or drunk that he's blacked out.
Yeah,
Otherwise, why are you even going into work?
You also said it yourself too. How much activity you have at this job at the night shift at a museum?
Yeah, nothing's happening.
How many times are you getting up other than to go pee and get water? I think you would remember. Oh yeah, I let that dude in.
Right. I like that this might be a sort of a Kaiser Soze situation, where he's like this stoned hippie who's like, I don't know, man. And then he starts walking down the street and his posture just straightens up.
Oh yeah.
He walks home to all his beautiful art. Yes, they've fallen for it. Yes, look at my beautiful collection.
The third theory comes from Dutch private investigator Arthur Brand, an expert in international art crimes. In his impressive endeavors to recover stolen art, Brand has posed as a Texas oil millionaire, a representative for sheiks and princes, as well as a general criminal. In one instance, he negotiated with criminal gangs to recover $25 million of artwork.
So, you get it. The
Impressive.
guy gets the job done.
Yeah.
Unlike our boy Cece, who went to go get the job done and then became a job himself by going missing. This man.
Don't worry, CC's on the case. Oops, I've been murdered.
Someone come find me now.
Don't worry, help has arrived. Help!
In 1991, about a year after the heist, Arthur Brand acquired images of the stolen artwork in storage somewhere in Holland. In 2010, Brand heard that the pieces were in possession of a member of the Irish Republican Army. After working on the case with the FBI for roughly 12 years, Brand theorizes that the pieces were originally stolen by small-time thieves who sold the pieces to US gang members, who then, possibly in the mid-1990s, shipped the pieces off to Ireland to some top-ranking Irish Republican Army commanders.
That makes
Brand
sense.
estimates that he can get the pieces back in a matter of months. He will not give details as to why, but believes that the investigation and leads are, quote, making the haystack smaller, end quote. FBI spokeswoman Kristen Satera stated, quote, the FBI believes with high confidence that we have identified those responsible for the theft, even though we still don't know where the art is currently located.
It's not just that they made off with a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But if they stole precious Rembrandts,
Yeah.
that's lost
For the culture.
Yeah.
culture. That's like someone stealing every copy of Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
You can never watch Forrest Gump again. I love it that they got his
Well, you can technically still watch Forrest Gump with illegal streaming.
theatric as they could. Would have liked some mustache, obviously.
You wanted
we've
a guy
covered
on the
that.
light on the telephone pole.
I'd like a guy on the telephone pole. But I like that they got in there. They essentially, no victims here.
Yeah.
Aside from the rich people they stole from, which, hey, look, steal from the rich. Do it.
You're right.
Be Robin Hood. Who do you think did it? What's your,
I think it had to be an inside job.
yeah.
Mainly because the button, knowing that button, which I guess is kind of like something you would assume anyway, there must be some kind of master control button, but knowing exactly where it is, I guess you would guess it's on the control desk. But knowing that they were in the midst of updating security and that there was someone who was let into the museum, unauthorized, through a door you're not supposed to go through the night before, on tape, and the motion detector not really going off.
Very fishy.
Oh, here's my idea. What if it was a security guard, but not the guy everyone's blaming? They just used him as a scapegoat.
It definitely seems like something that would be an inside job, and it wouldn't even be that hard because no one seems to be paying attention in this museum.
Well, if you got any tips, email them to us, and we'll pass them along to the proper authorities.
Yeah.
Anthony Amore, the director of security at the museum, commented that stolen pieces are either recovered soon after the crime or about a generation later. For many years, the museum was offering a $5 million reward for information.
Wait, I'm confused. How long is a generation? About 30 years, so they should be showing up sometime.
Information that could lead to a return of the artwork in good condition. And the offer was even doubled to a $10 million reward for a short period, but expired on December 31st, 2017.
Darn it.
The statute of limitations for the prosecution of theft passed in the mid-1990s. In 2005, Boston's U.S. attorney said he will not prosecute whoever comes forward with the paintings. Whether that day comes remains to be seen. But for now, the identity of the burglars and the location of the stolen Gardner Museum artwork will remain unsolved.
Let's see if they found any. Yeah, still not recovered. Let's see if we can deal with, like... Oh, there's a clue. Dang it. Okay, Smithsonian, you better not do anything stupid. Let's see. No. The killing of this guy might have been related to the heist. Okay, it was a mob style hit. Marx probably she stolen paintings and had been in that he had hidden it some of the artworks. Okay, so there's a chance that some mob guy knew where the paintings were, but now he's dead. So that sucks. See you guys in the next one.